I got 6:02.
I got 2 minutes after.
All right.
But every time I do it, I can't get it done.
At this time, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting into order. Is there as far as be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors hereby enter into closed meeting for the purposes of discussing the following. Discussions concerning prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Project number 2016-33. Discussion or consideration of the acquisition of real property for a public purpose or the disposition of publicly held real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. 1, the former AEP property. 2, Government Center / Roanoke Road. 3, former Blacksburg High School property. In addition, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplinary, or resignations of specific officers, appointees, employees of any public body. 1, Parks and Recreation Commission. 2, Social Services Board. 3, Personnel. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Is there a motion to come out of closed meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County hereby certifies to the best of each member's knowledge that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. And this is our board's word that we're only talking about in closed session what we're supposed to be talking about. Is there a motion for certification?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes. 6 ayes.
At this point in time, I'm going to ask us all to observe a moment of silence, and I will ask the county administrator to lead us in the pledge.
Stand, please.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
The next item on our agenda is the Montgomery Floyd Regional Library in regards to a feasibility study.
We have a whole group here tonight, and I believe, Jack, are you going to do the introductions of the folks tonight?
I will do the introduction
Thank you.
and then turn it over to these gentlemen behind. Good evening. My name is Jack Murphy. I'm with Thompson Litton. I think everybody saw me a couple weeks ago, but a pleasure to be here again tonight and talk about the current project for your library, the study and feasibility assessment. Not unlike, for example, the Animal Care and Adoption Center project, Thompson Litton will seek out specialists in the field so we can continue to provide services within our geographic area. In that project, we went as far as Texas, but for this library project, we didn't have to go very far to Petersburg, Virginia. The team within Terrace Design, Gil Ensminger, president of that company, Gil's firm and Thompson Litton has actually worked together on a few other projects but Gil's worked throughout the state of Virginia and the Mid-Atlantic region, and then brings a lot of not only local but regional and national expertise to the project. Also with us is a senior project manager from Thompson Litton out of our Radford office, Mark Bout. Mark is a resident in Montgomery County, just outside of Blacksburg, and knows the two libraries pretty well also. So Mark's leading the charge here and working closely with Paula and her group, and Gil has been providing his expertise. So I'm asked Mark and Gil just to update everybody on the status of the project, where we are, and what you can see and expect to see from us in the coming months. Mark?
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and we certainly want to thank the board for the opportunity to serve the county once again. I'm relatively new to Thompson and Litton, but if there's one thing I've learned in my short time there, they have a very, very impressive resume of projects that have been completed for the county, and I'm very proud to be part of the organization and what they stand for. This particular project we think is very important for the county. The libraries are starting to get some age on them. We need to decide what to do with them in the future with the continuing march of electronics into our lives. That certainly is not immune to the library, so we're going to look at that as well. We have about a 4-month project that we charted out in terms of project timeline. We essentially got the project started today. We had a multidisciplinary team of engineers and architects that were looking at the Blacksburg Library this morning and the Christiansburg Library this afternoon. We will have a public meeting tomorrow night at the Christiansburg Library at 6:30. You're certainly invited to attend, as is everyone else behind me and anyone else in the county that uses that library. And we will have a similar meeting at the Blacksburg Library on Wednesday evening at 6:30. We currently have available now a survey on a hosting service called SurveyMonkey that will ask about 30 or so questions about how people in the county use the libraries and a little bit about the demographics of the users themselves, and that'll be a part of our study and part of the output that we provide. So we would ask you all to do your civic duty and go online and answer that survey to help us out with that. Gil Ensminger, as Jack said, is an expert in libraries. If you go on his firm's website, it's very apparent that they are very well seasoned in how to do library projects. And I'm going to turn it over to Gil and let him explain a little bit about the process that we will be following after this week's set of meetings. Gil.
Thank you, Mark. Again, I'm Gil Ensminger. I'm with the Terrace Design Architects. We're an architecture firm in Petersburg, but we do have a specialty in library projects. And we've done several libraries throughout Virginia with several library systems. And we're looking forward to working with Montgomery County. Just to give you a brief overview of our process for this project, I think Mark gave you a good general summary of where we're starting from. We're gathering information. We're in our discovery phase of the project. We're fact-finding. We're trying to get as much information we can from the community, from public officials, and from the library staff about what you see as your current need in the library systems as well as what you see as future need. So through that information gathering process, we'll establish kind of a baseline of starting to move forward with a program for the library. We're also conducting that existing conditions assessment that Mark mentioned. We're looking at a lot of the architectural components and the library function and flow. We're looking at the collections, the layout of the collections, the furniture, the architecture of the public spaces, as well as the staff spaces, how they operate, how they could operate more efficiently within the space they have and moving forward with new space. We're also looking at mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, and site conditions of those facilities as well, to really understand how they're working currently and how they could work in the future to accommodate either renovation or expansion or new construction on those sites. From that information, we'll really then begin our analysis phase, where we'll dissect and put back together that information to determine what the preliminary space needs list is and square footages for those spaces. We'll review that again with library staff and refine that to develop the final program and space needs list for the library facilities in both Blacksburg and Christiansburg. We'll then develop options to test fit the existing sites and the existing facilities to determine whether or not they can accommodate the need either through renovation or expansion, and we'll compare those options to potential new construction on a hypothetical to site to say, okay, if we can't do it on the existing sites, what can we do for new construction on new sites? We'll look at the cost comparison of those various options, study those to determine what would be most feasible and in the best interest for the county. And then we'll prepare a comprehensive report and final presentation to summarize our recommendations and study results. We anticipate that that information would be available by early December. We'll have a series of interim reviews and interim steps to review that with library staff along the way, but the final report and presentation would be ready by early December.
Go around.
I will mention just one thing. This is the first of 2 public meetings. There will be one at Blacksburg, one at Christiansburg this week. There will be a follow-up meeting for the public about 3 or 4 weeks out. I don't have the exact timeline with me, but there will be a second opportunity, and hopefully some of the results from the survey we'll be able to share with the public at those follow-up meetings, and certainly everyone's invited to both of those.
Supervisor Shepherd, any questions?
I don't have any.
Supervisor DeMont?
Where can the public access the survey?
It'll be on the library's website.
Okay, is it on there currently, or it's on there currently?
And I
So
mentioned-
you would encourage all of the attendees as well as our board to access that website and take the survey?
Definitely.
And we
I think Paul was trying to get it on the county
Yeah.
website as well.
We're going to make
Maybe
sure that we
there's-
share it on the county's website and through social media so that folks will have access to it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Biggs?
Well, I'm really excited about this because it's been long overdue. And we have a lot of needs in the county, of course, schools and recreation, but libraries play a very critical part in the lives of our citizens day in and day out. So I'm really excited to see this getting off the ground and to see what folks are going to have to say. So I'd encourage anyone that has any kind of comments to send them in.
Supervisor Creed?
Yeah, just real briefly, just glad that you're where you're at right now to try to get this thing on and up and have everybody out using it. So appreciate you.
Supervisor King? No. Thank you all very much. I don't have any questions, but I will be going to SurveyMonkey to fill out my, and put my 2 cents in. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I gotta admit, it's odd saying SurveyMonkey.
Yeah, Survey Monkey.
All right, next item, and I've drifted down. Here we go. County Financial. Mr. Rogers, please come forward and give us an update in regards to potential refunding opportunities.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Give you a chance to get that in your hands there. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Great to see everyone again. We're here with good news, and that is interest rates have continued to stay low. As you know, we refinanced some bonds earlier this year, and we're back with another possibility. That's something we constantly are doing on your behalf, is looking to see if there are any opportunities to refinance bonds. These are the 2011 bonds that were issued. You might recall we issued these as a standalone bond through the Virginia Public School Authority. These were originally issued as the size of $86 million. We paid some of that down. We've got $65 million roughly that's eligible to be refinanced. It currently carries a coupon of 5%. We would call those bonds out in 2021, but because rates are so low, it makes sense to take a look at it now. Final maturity of those is 2032. Just as a reminder, these were issued to finance the new Blacksburg High School as well as the Auburn High School, and we turned the old Auburn High School into the new Auburn Middle School. So that was what the proceeds for that bond issue were done. Now, typically, we would look at a 3% net present value basis, and basically what we do is we look at what is the present value savings, divide that by that $65 million, and if it's at least 3%, then we would look to do it. It's well in excess of that. What's happened is, if you look back, going over back to 1990, you can see that
that interest rates have continued to kind of trend down. Yes, we've had some spikes up at certain points in time. The AAA MMD is a yield curve that is put together daily on business days that basically tracks AAA GO bonds. This is the rate at 20 years. And you can see it's down now below 2%. It's roughly right at 2%, 220 actually, 202, excuse me. So right at 2%. When we did your 2008 bonds that we refinanced earlier this year, we sold those back in late January. The MMD was at 248. So you can see how far that's come. At that point, these bonds didn't make sense to refinance, or we would have done them at the same time. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to show you this chart. You can see how far rates have actually fallen. You can see that little dip down there at the very end. Some of you might remember back in July when the folks over in Britain had their vote, and it came out a way that no one thought was going to happen. We saw rates actually drop 20 basis points just that one day. Now, as you can see that yield curve, it's actually come back. So once everybody figured out the world wasn't going to end, rates came back and have kind of leveled off there in that 2% range for a 20-year MMD. Wanted to let you know, one of the things that we do is look at what are our different options to go out and finance bonds. Some of you may recall that we've issued bonds through the EDA before, as what's called lease revenue bonds. In this case, these particular bonds, we recommended going through the VPSA standalone program. We also looked at their pool program. So let me explain a little bit about that in case you get questions. The securities are slightly different. Through the EDA, they're lease revenue bonds. Through the VPSA, and it's because of the way that state code is written, they're issued as GO bonds without a referendum. They're GO bonds under the state code going through the Virginia Public School Authority. Their pool program is rated AA1, AA+, AA+. That's their rating. That's the pool program rating. If we do it standalone, it's whatever our rating is as a county, and our rating is currently AA1, AA. Almost the same, but you'll see we don't have the plus yet. It's one of the things we keep working on with S&P. Can we get upgraded to that plus? And we'll push them again this time. But we're almost rated the same as the pool program. Lease revenue bonds, you might remember, are basically one notch below our GO rating. So we go from a AA1 down to a AA2. We go from a AA down to a AA minus. We take all that into account. When we look at the way things trade in the marketplace, the better the rating, the lower the rate, and there's usually what we call a spread between those different credits. So in the case of the lease bonds, if we went through the EDA, we'd be about 25 basis points off a AAA GO. If we were going through as a standalone, talking to our desk, we'd be about 10 basis points. Roughly the same for that pool, 10 basis points. And one of the reasons why we trade just as good as that slightly higher rated bond is because they're in the market every year. So as a result, folks, they'll buy those bonds, but because we're not out there as much, we actually get a better rate. They're willing to trade off a name they don't see that often, and as a result, they're willing to give up a little bit more yield because they want to diversify their portfolio. VPSA is selling bonds every year, at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. So as a result, we actually trade as well, even though our rating's not quite as good. In addition, though, they charge 5 basis points for the pool, and that's something you pay annually. For the standalone, all they're going to do is charge us some of their fixed costs up front. So roughly the same as what we pay in the pool. And then, of course, there's no fees. If we go through the EDA, there's no VPSA fees there. So when you take it all into account, we're about 25 basis points over as a lease, 10 as a standalone, and about 15 as a pool. So our recommendation is to go through and do the same thing we did before, go through as a standalone VPSA. We've already talked to the State Treasurer's Office, and they are fine with that. So that is our recommendation. Now, just to tell you a little bit more about the standalone, kind of the characteristics, the pool program is basically put together to help local governments access the market. So they've got these 2 programs, and let me add the standalone. You must have a certain size, and it's somewhere in the $20-25 million range before you can even actually approach them, and we're obviously well above that. They're going to act as a conduit, just the same as the EDA acts as our conduit when we do lease deals. We do have to go through their board of directors, and their meeting is actually coming up. They only meet twice a year, so our timing happens to work perfectly for this standalone issue. We're going to be, that you'll see in a moment, they meet in September. We will go through, put together a credit package like we would if we were going through an EDA issue. We'll talk to the rating agencies. We're going to, as I mentioned, push them. Obviously, we always are pushing them a little harder. Can we get our rating up higher? Because that in turn helps our interest costs. We have to put together a public offering document. Your legal counsel here bond counsel will help put that together. These rates are going to be fixed for the entire term of the loan, so that's one of the benefits going out to the public market. But as you know, the rates are still going to be fluctuating until we actually price the bonds, and we'll talk about the date here in just a moment. These carry the same 10-year call date that we would see in any of the other, all three options, basically the same there. So, looking at our schedule, with your nod tonight, what we'd look to do is get started with some of the paperwork. We will knock on the door of the credit agencies, find out if they're available. We're looking to talk to them in the kind of the late August, maybe early September timeframe, maybe mid-September, depending upon their schedules. We're looking to come to the school board at least once. We put on the schedule here just in case we didn't want to surprise them. If we need to, we can go to them on the 6th and kind of give them an update, let them know that it's coming. But if they're willing to move forward, we can also move forward that night. Basically, they've got to approve a resolution that the VPSA folks will put together and will help fill in the blanks. Then we need to come back to you all, get your approval as well. The state board meeting is September 27th. It was supposed to be earlier, but it's been pushed back, so it works, actually helps us a little bit. So they're meeting on the 27th. With all those approvals in place, we'd be looking to go to market in late September, early October with our POS, and hopefully price a week or two later and get closed hopefully by the election. Is kind of what we're shooting for. There's an unknown out there what's going to happen after this election, the national election, obviously, with interest rates. I could be sitting here 6 months from now and rates not change much. But at this point, we're trying to move ahead of that. There could be a number of other issuers wanting to get into the market, so we could be in there with a lot of other folks. I will tell you that right now, there is a lack of tax-exempt paper out there, and that's helping our rates stay low. We were in the market last week with Spotsylvania County. They had 7 different bidders bidding, and it was the only deal in the market in Virginia that week, and that was 60-something million. So very good reception out there. I think our 20-year rate was like right at 2%, which is essentially what we've been talking about here. So with that, Mr. Chairman, happy to answer any questions you might have, but I really was just looking for a head nod to move forward.
Supervisor King, any questions?
No, I don't have no question, but I appreciate y'all working on this and the county staff working on it too.
Thank you.
Supervisor Creed.
No.
Supervisor Biggs.
Just want to get it done.
Yep.
No
Supervisor.
questions.
Great.
No question.
You know us, we're very conservative. I think we've said it's in excess of $5 million. We think we'll be above that number if rates will hang in there.
And you may have mentioned it, and I want to make sure I didn't miss it. Our current bonds, is there, right now, is there a date where they could balloon, the interest rate could balloon?
It is not.
It is.
They're locked in as well.
They're locked in.
Okay, I
Yes,
just
sir.
wanted to double check, because I noticed that was mentioned that this would be fixed, and I was just,
They were done in the public market, so they are all fixed as well. Yes, sir.
okay. Are you just looking for consensus at this point in time? Do we have consensus to refinance? And
Great. Yep. And we'll be back in front of you guys on the 12th with resolutions to get approved, and either myself or my partner Doug Gephardt will be down here to make sure if you have any other questions. So.
Do you have an extra one or two you can leave with Carol?
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
We have some.
Oh, good. Got it. Thank you.
I was going to say, I remember some notes.
and our thoughts and prayers are with your family.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Safe travels back.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is public hearing, and that the first item is entitled Planning and Development Code of Virginia, of Montgomery County, erosion and sediment control. And I'm looking to see if there's anyone signed up in regards to that. I don't see anyone signed up, but is there anyone who wishes to come forward and address the board? You would have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Thank you, sir.
Jawafar Winslow, 1600 Winslow Drive, Blacksburg. I'm here to support the ordinance amending Chapter 8, Section 8-69, erosion and sediment control programs. This is a great move to simplify the collection of the fees through establishing a lump sum upfront payment plan, something that the treasurer would likely welcome. Having said that, I'd like the system to be fair. The fee should reflect and match the actual cost of the official processing procedures and the time and effort spent by the inspectors. So there should be no subsidies offered by the county. Also, since the amount of work inspecting the projects in the target category is similar, the fee should have a time factor component to satisfy the operation cost of the continued inspection process. That means if a project is to be completed in 1 year, it should pay twice as the one completed in 6 months. Adjustments can be made when the projects are complete. In fact, the latter may be partly the reasoning behind the existing payment plan.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? Seeing no one else coming forward, I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing. The next public hearing is an ordinance amending our zoning in regards to solar energy. Ms. Gibson?
I did some handoffs because I have a lot to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tonight I'm going to try to review with you the work that the Planning Commission has been working on for text amendments to the zoning ordinance for solar energy systems. I'm going to start with this because I think it gives you a snapshot of just how much time the Commission has spent. Back in February, when they set their priorities in the work plan, solar energy came up as one of the things for them to explore. And pretty much at the same time, we were seeing a large influx of calls to our office with questions and mostly wanting to be able to look at parcels. So we decided to jump right in and started in March, getting some industry perspectives, had some question and answers with 3 different companies in the solar industry. And from that point, just started drafting text, reviewing it, editing it, coming up with other questions. And the commission did a good job of asking staff to dig on certain topics, and we would do that. Up until the 13th of July, they authorized a public hearing, and the Planning Commission held their hearing August the 10th. So as I mentioned, we had some industry perspectives. We had 3 representatives meet with us. One was actually a company based out of California, one North Carolina, and then we had a local provider with Baseline Solar out of Blacksburg. And one of the first things we looked at is what's currently allowed, because I guess if you see that we're doing a text about solar, you would think that maybe we don't allow it. There's actually quite a bit of solar in Montgomery County, and we had a very successful Solarize Montgomery program in the spring and summer of last year. But we only allow that as accessory, so there has to be another principal use of the property in order to have solar. And the calls we were getting were related to the solar being the principal use of the property. So we started looking at some specifics while we were talking to the industry experts, and we quickly realized that we needed to focus on the land area versus the watts, kilowatts, megawatts. My staff is very, very qualified to do a lot of things, but we wanted to focus more on the land use side of things than calculating energy that was being captured from the sun. So at that point, we realized that 3 tiers was probably going to be the best option. And early on, we felt like this is what it would look like: small scale, large scale, and utility scale. And we talked about the impacts. When we had those industry experts here, we asked them questions that we had either heard from citizens or had read about in other model ordinances. The first was glare. And one of the providers did a really good job of explaining that, because that was probably my biggest concern. And he said if there's glare coming off of them, they're really not doing their job, because their job is to capture the sun. And if it's glaring, then they're not set up appropriately. Fencing is something that we were looking at, and they also do that. Obviously, it protects their investment. And decommissioning bond was an item that was in several model ordinances, and when we spoke to them, the people in the industry, they said they definitely have done that in other localities, but they said, you know, you don't require a decommissioning bond when someone builds a new shopping center. And in much the same way that could sit vacant, so this could. But because of the technology and the investment, typically it's not something that people do leave around. It's worth noting we actually do require a decommissioning bond on towers here in the county. So we worked from those smaller scale, larger scale, utility scale definitions into what you see in the text that you have tonight. We felt like minor, major, and accessory were better ways for people to wrap their head around what was being described. And we really looked at the intent of each district to make sure that if it was going to be the principal use, that it would fit in. So you'll notice that it's not proposed to be the principal use in any of our residential districts. Those are obviously intended for residential, so those would remain accessory there. You can see the districts that we did include them in. You can see it there in the yellow, those are by right, and then over in the pink and gray, those are SUP. They're gray in the bottom corner because those got added in after the commission worked through a little more. So conservation, or C1, general business, GB, and community business, CB, along with the residential districts, when you read their intent and purpose, this use did not fit. So staff did not move that forward as a recommendation in the text. Again, accessory would still be allowed there. So just to walk you through some of the proposed changes that the commission's been working on. We'll start with what you have. You have the definitions provided, those are at the very end of the text, and then the districts, whether these are going to be allowed by right or by SUP. Accessory use is already allowed, and you see some strike through in the text, and that was basically for consistency. So we had it defined as solar panels, and that now says solar energy systems accessory, so there's consistency throughout. Has to be located on the same lot as the principal use, and has to meet the other district regulations, so setback, height, things like that. Solar energy system minor. This is a small scale facility, but it is still the principal use of the property. And it could utilize no more than 50% of the parcel size, or up to an acre, whichever is less, and meet the other base district regulations. So again, those are setbacks and height restrictions.
Now, is it fair to say that there was some debate in the Planning Commission and there was a reduction down to the 1 acre?
Yes.
Could you elaborate and so explain some of the decision making that they led them to the 1 acre?
I will. So when we first started talking to the people in the industry, they basically started equating a wattage with acres. So it takes about 10 acres to make a megawatt. And so there's a cutoff point in the world of solar of what makes financial sense, because it's not inexpensive to do projects like these. But there is a push out of Richmond from the administration, and there's other credits available. And so if someone's interested in doing it, that's how they came about. So 10 acres is about a megawatt. And when we first started talking about it, we said, well, that would definitely be utility scale. That would be large if someone was doing 10 acres or more. We felt pretty comfortable about it, and that was in the first draft. And then someone said, wow, 10 acres is a lot. I think I feel uncomfortable with that, because if you just saw a sea of 10 acres, that would be huge. So it came down to 6 acres. And that happens to be the size of the one in Salem, if you're familiar with that one. And so several commissioners went and took a field trip and saw it and said, that still seems really, really big. So we advertised 3 acres. And ultimately and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but ultimately we didn't have any citizens or anyone from the industry say yay or nay, but the commission felt like their recommendation to you was to consider 1 acre. And anything larger than an acre would be an SUP. So it would still be possible, it would just get a case-by-case review instead of by right. And the way those sizes are determined would basically be to take the project size and draw a perimeter around it. So it's not like each individual panel or anything like that. It's a perimeter of the entire project and the inverter that it might need or any other equipment.
Thank you.
Yeah. So going back to minor, which is 50% of the parcel size or an acre or less, that would be by right in these 6 districts that are shown here. For major, which is going to be more than 50% of the parcel size or more than 1 acre. These would be the same 6 districts, but they would all be by special use permit. In your memo, you had a slight error. It said there was a 7-0 vote with Commissioner Wolf's absent. He was indeed absent, but Mr. Miller abstained from voting, and so it was a 6-0 recommendation. And that did include the 3 acres that we initially advertised. While that is what their hearing was held on, they felt more comfortable with 1 acre. And that's all I have for you. If you have questions, I'm glad to help.
Supervisor Shepherd, any questions?
Not at this time.
Supervisor DeMont?
No questions.
Supervisor Biggs? No. Supervisor Creed? No. Supervisor King?
That by right, is that, I'm just throwing this out there, say at my house if I wanted to put one up, is there some kind of standard where my neighbors could come to a public hearing and say, I don't want that there?
No, sir. At your house, it would be accessory, and we currently allow that now. If you had a vacant parcel that you wanted to use, if it was up to half the parcel size or 1 acre, it would also be by right. So there's no hearing, it's an administrative process. It still has to get its permits for E&S, zoning, things like that. So it's a permit process, but not a hearing.
I was just wondering because if you talk about the glare coming off of them, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't want to put that in my yard if I'm going to glare on Chris's property.
The way that as liaison to the planning commission, the way it was explained by the experts, if it's got glare, they're going to come and fix it because that means they're losing the sunlight that they're wanting to capture. Yeah. They don't want any reflection. How
long do I got to put up with the glare before they fix it?
I don't know, but that was the way they presented. They want to absorb it, not reflect it.
Right. Yeah, I understand that, but you see where I'm coming from?
Right. And if none of the experts seem to think that has been a problem, people think that there's going to be glare because of it, but the way that they're designed, there's not glare. I did go down to the Salem when I was down there, and I toured part of North Carolina, and I didn't notice any glare on those, but those were massive. And the one down in Salem is big. I mean, 6 acres, you don't realize it until you see 6 acres of solar panels, and it's big.
And a lot of times, another thing that we talked about related to the technology being used, people assume there's going to be a glare, thinking of the larger solar panels like they use out in Arizona, things like that. Those are made to have a reflection which concentrates the energy, whereas typically around here we see the flat panels which just absorb it, so there's no reflection as part of what they do.
All right, thank you.
Does that spark any other questions?
Just one thing, and it's not a question, it's more of a thanks. I do appreciate the analysis that led your board to adopt the 1 acre rule. I think that was very well thought, and the work that you and your board have put into this is commendable. Thank you.
And at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. There was no one signed up, but would anyone like to come forward, and you would have 5 minutes? Seeing no one coming forward, I'll go ahead and, is that, okay, nope. Seeing no one coming forward, I'll go ahead and close this public hearing. The next item on our agenda is public address. We have 3 individuals signed up in regards to it. Each person is going to have 5 minutes, and then after we go through the list, we'll see if there's anyone else who would like to address the board. The first person on our list is Mode Johnson. If you would please come forward, sir, and state your name and address.
Hello, thank you. My name is Mode Johnson, 3030 Mount Tabor Road in Blacksburg. I'm going to talk about some pipeline concerns. I think you need to know what some citizens are going through in the county related to the proposed pipeline. It's going to be basically in my front yard, 100 feet from my front door. I'm one of the more severely impacted by this proposed pipeline. It's a stone's throw from my front door. Many sleepless nights, obviously. Pipeline has not been good to work with. We received a letter that gave us 10 days, a 10-day window for the survey to occur on our property. I wrote back saying this was unreasonable, number one, and it didn't comply with the Virginia Code, in my opinion, that said a set date, not a group of dates. So I sent my response back saying, please provide me with a date and 15 days notice. I heard nothing. I got a call one day. I was volunteering at the Blacksburg Rescue Squad. There were surveyors on your property. So what did I do? I finished my squad duty group and went home. Sure enough, there were stakes in our property. They had come on without notifying me they were coming. I want to be there, present to go with them to see what they're doing. There's not only one survey, there are 6 different types of surveys that occur. I wanted to be present and walk with them while they were doing that. I didn't want to stop them, I just wanted them to follow the law. Their response was, our attorneys feel that that 10-day window complies with the law. Sorry. So we had no recourse except to stand guard on our property for 10 days. When surveyors came, and they did, we would call the sheriff's department. The sheriff responded, sometimes 3 different cars at the same time. If the landowner wasn't present, we would call them because they need to talk to the landowner themselves. A neighbor can't kick somebody off of their neighbor's property. People have to leave work to come and tell the sheriff to ask the surveyors to leave. If they didn't leave, we can go to the magistrate's office and swear out a warrant. So we stood guard for 10 days. We agreed after the 4th time, we had to call the sheriff's department 4 times, that they would give us dates after September 5th for surveying. I said, please provide those dates by August 22nd, so we would have 15 days notice and we could arrange our work schedules, our volunteer schedules. Today is August 22nd. I have not heard any dates proposed back from the pipeline company. If this is the way they treat us now, how are they going to treat us if the pipeline goes through and they have a legal easement to be on our property? Let's think about that. Now what? I hope I don't have many more sleepless nights. Maybe I'll have a few less. I want to thank the board for hiring Carolyn Elfont. She is a very well-known pipeline attorney, and I think she will give the board, Mr. Meadows, Mr. McMahon, some good, excellent legal advice for Montgomery County. The second thing I'd like to thank the board for is a resolution many, many months ago opposing the pipeline through Preston Forest and Brush Mountain Estates. Unfortunately now, it's not going there, and I do request that the board amend the resolution to oppose the pipeline in any route in Montgomery County. I think that's what needs to be done, and I would appreciate it if the board would consider that. And lastly, I would ask the board to think about and recommend an advisory committee regarding the pipeline to help Mr. Meadows, Ms. Elfont, the county attorney, to deal with pipeline issues. They're very complicated, and we have some great people in Montgomery County who have worked with FERC and MVP and and their responses, and they know those details so well. And many of these people aren't on the pipeline route. They're concerned Montgomery County citizens who really care about the county. They're worried about the cars, the environment, the safety, the buried pipe, 42-inch buried pipe. So I hope that we don't have your grandchildren to have to worry about this buried pipe many, many years from now.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it? The next speaker is Pam, is it Ferrante? Ferrante. Thank you very much.
We were going to flip a coin. We weren't sure.
Thank you very much. You have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Okay, I'm Pam Ferrante, and I also live at 3030 Mount Tabor Road. And I'm very concerned about the pipeline. It's very interesting when, it comes through your county, you start doing a lot of reading and researching and asking a lot of questions. And what I'm worried about with this pipeline is that it's going to destroy the vision that many citizens in this county considered in Montgomery County, the vision we have of it. It's a progressive county with a clean and healthy environment that we want to live in, work in, and retire. And this is why many people live here, stay here, and also move here. I'm afraid that the pipeline is going to result in many, and I'm just going to say horrible, horrible consequences. What I worry about is the loss of land value, not only for the owners, the people that have land that's right next to the pipeline, but I think we're going to have a decrease in land value all across Montgomery County. And along with the decrease in land value, of course, we're going to have a decrease in land tax revenue, which is going to affect the county. We're going to have a decrease in growth of the county. The proposed pipeline goes through actively growing areas of Montgomery County, new residents moving in, new houses being built. I can't understand why anybody would want to move to this area and build a house with a pipeline in the county. We're also going to have destruction of our environment. Clear evidence that pipeline construction alone can cause land erosion, soiling and pollution of our streams. It can affect our underground water systems, and also can pollute the air. Also, when they clear cut the easement, they're going to clear cut about 150 feet wide. They say they're going to plant it, but you never can return it to its natural state. We're going to have a lot of invasive plants growing in this area, and it's going to really scar our area. There's also health hazards. Of course, I think about the big explosion, and we all think about the big explosion. But that's not the only problem we have. We also going to have pipeline leaks, gases into the air, and like I said, pollution of our well water. Our infrastructure right now, we have small roads, and right now we have pretty tight infrastructure with the small roads, the windy roads, the narrow roads. The extra burden of heavy construction vehicles during construction and also during the actual operation phase is going to put another stress on our infrastructure. And of course, we, the citizens, will have to pay for those improvements. And the last thing I worry about is the abandonment, if that occurs at this pipeline. Natural gas is not going to last forever. Right now, they're extracting whatever they can so that these companies can make a profit. There's no guarantee that the gas industry will need the miles of pipeline that are in the United States right now and in Virginia. And let alone do we really need a new pipeline. Without proper maintenance, these pipelines will deteriorate if they abandon them. Who's responsible for an empty 42-inch pipeline in your land that's going to just be destroyed with corrosion? These are my questions. These are some answers. I mean, I would love to have some answers, and I think the best answer is not to have the pipeline go through Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker signed up is Lynette Majors.
Linda Majors.
Linda, okay.
Yeah.
It-
Sorry. 2620 Mount Tabor Road. I also would like you to revisit the resolution that you regarding the pipeline in Montgomery County that you did maybe in 2014 or early 2015 before they even filed for a route to update that, just like Mr. Johnson was saying. And I'm going to talk about water issues now. I think I mentioned to you a while ago that I went to a Roanoke County Pipeline Advisory Committee meeting when they had invited the DEQ to come to view their landforms and their water and their concerns. And then the DEQ spoke. And one thing they did say was there'd be no special permit issued for this pipeline. They would be going under the 404 and 401 water permits. There I met Mr. Johnson, who worked for the DEQ, used to, and they've written a letter, and I thought it would be good to read certain sections of it for knowledge for our board and for us. They're writing it to Mr. Paler, who's director of the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. So, dear Mr. Paler, in accordance with Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers may grant permits for certain construction activities within waterways and wetlands. However, under Section 401 of the Act, it is the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality's role and sole responsibility to review the permit application and deny certification if a project can impact water quality or have other unacceptable environmental consequences. Given the mission of Virginia Department of Environmental Quality to protect and enhance Virginia's environment, any consideration for 401 certification of the Mountain Valley Pipeline project must be based on independent, non-political, and unbiased review of the facts regarding the short-term and long-term effects on water resources. The states of New York and New Jersey and local governments in those states have such serious water quality concerns from proposed gas pipeline development that they have either denied 401 certificates or have asked FERC to deny initiation of construction activity until a decision is made on the 401 certification. The geography and geology in those regions is not nearly as severe and fragile as here in Virginia, nor are the water issues more critical. In our county, there are multiple concerns related to the construction and maintenance of 42-inch diameter high-pressure pipeline in its corridor. Just a couple of the concerns are the certainty of continual erosion and potential for slope failure in an unprecedented crossing of extremely steep slopes, greater than 60 to 70 degrees, where blasting will occur, and with excavation through a thin layer of highly erodible soil. The discharge of hydrostatic testing effluent to surface waters, including the North Fork of the Roanoke River. And no special permit is going to be issued for that. The compound and immediate effects of blasting, trenching, and hydrostatic testing in the karst terrain west of the Blue Ridge. Based on the above facts, which demonstrate the detrimental impacts on water quality and the unacceptable environmental consequences of the proposed MVP project, I am requesting that DEQ fulfill its responsibility to protect our water resources and deny 401 certification of the project. After the meeting, I went out and talked to one of the two DEQ officials that were there. And I said, what's my county doing? And they said, well, it's kind of funny because some counties are doing a lot and other counties have just sent us a resolution. So I don't know whether that's exactly the answer, that Montgomery County hadn't had any contact with DEQ, but if that's the case, we have issues here that you need to address with them so that we are protected. And with Carolyn Elephant as your attorney now, surely that can be expedited and helped. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all the individuals who signed up for public address, but anyone else can come forward. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Seeing no one come forward, I'll go ahead and close public address. There is no addendum. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, sir.
I'm a little slow.
That's okay, I apologize. I didn't see you standing up.
I'm Dr. Robert Jones. I live at 2628 Montgomery Road. I too would appreciate your resolution being updated to cover the Mount Tabor variation, which was suggested by Mountain Pipeline on the 21st of April of this year. There's been no publicity about it in the newspaper. Maybe even haven't even heard of it. But the problem is this, that route goes through sensitive karst, unlike what Mountain Valley Pipeline says. They think it's clean. There are no sensitive karst features that they can identify looking at a map in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, looking out the wrong window. They're simply wrong. I'm writing a survey of all the, well, most of the Mountain Valley, or most of the Mount Tabor variation, crossing property by property, listing what karst features are there, caves, sinkholes. They're going right by the biggest sinkhole in this area. It's 0.8 of a mile long, 0.3 of a mile wide, and in places 75, 80 feet deep. They're going to go right beside it. That doesn't make any sense because there's karst on the edge of that sinkhole. They're going to blast there. There's rock. They have to blast. Blasting can destroy caverns that are underneath. There's a multiple set of layers of caverns in this area. And if they were to blast and those caverns were to collapse, there would be no water in the Mount Tabor area. And what would you have to do about that? Or what would Mountain Valley Pipeline have to do about that? I think they said maybe they would truck in water or something like that. You know, the water bottles that Flint, Michigan has gotten? That doesn't work. During any construction, there's always a spill of diesel fuel. You get that into the underground aquifer, it pollutes not only the water of those residents in the Mount Tabor area who rely totally on a well, it goes down into the North Fork of the Roanoke River. The people in the country club area, they depend on that water. That be polluted too. Goes on down to the Spring Hollow Reservoir for Roanoke County that serves 15,000 people. Okay, that's just if they have a leak. I'm sorry, if they have a construction spill, which is pretty much inevitable. The other problem is the leaks that I skipped over during operation of the pipeline. The pipelines always leak. How much? Well, you know, if the pipeline leaks into a karst cavern, it can fill up, and if anybody goes in and smokes a cigarette, their history. That also pollutes the entire watershed. It's just not a place to go. A professor from Radford University, and Dr. Casting, wrote a very nice report as an expert witness that hopefully will persuade FERC to not allow this to be happening. But we have no guarantee of that. There was an interesting political cartoon in the newspaper a couple of days ago. It had a building labeled FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and another building labeled Mountain Valley Pipeline. And it had zip lines between the people going back and forth, and apparently that's what they do. They change jobs every once in a while. Doesn't sound like exactly a biased or unbiased situation, as is one of the primary responsibilities of FERC. They're supposed to be unbiased. I don't see how they are. Yeah, there have been plenty of problems with Mountain Valley Pipeline surveying. We've had, so far, some pretty good cooperation from the Sheriff's Department to come out and tell the people to go away if they're not supposed to be there, even though they think they are. I think their lawyers give them bad advice. You can't read the Virginia Gas Pipeline Law, which uses the word day, D-A-Y, not days, not a range of dates, just a day. The circuit court judge in Nelson County did rule, well, okay, I can read the law. You can't do a range of dates, you have to do one day. That would mean one letter per day, multiple days or multiple letters if you want multiple days. Not one at a time.
Sir, your time is up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? And hearing or seeing no one else coming forward, I'll go ahead and close public address. The next item was the addendum. I don't believe there's an addendum. Is there a motion in regards to consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Is there a motion to go into work session?
Motion.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
The first item in the work session is a boundary line adjustment, Harding Road Development, Poff property.
And Mr. Chair, I'm going to recognize Wes Bradley, or I'm going to recognize Jeremy White. Thank you, Brooks. There has been a proposed development of the property, the former or current POF property along Harding Road that sits right outside the town limits of Blacksburg in the county. Jeremy and Wes have made presentations to the town council regarding the project. There's been some discussion about a possible boundary line adjustment if the town were to request that in order to provide utilities to this property. And staff felt it would be important for the board to understand what this project is and what's being talked about in case the town were to request that. So we asked Jeremy and Wes to be here tonight. So, Jeremy.
Thank you, Board. I appreciate that. Again, my name is Jeremy White. I'm with BSB Design, representing Wes Bradley here for the development, proposed development, rather, for the POF property located on Harding Road. I do have some hard copies here for everyone that we can kind of pass around. Is it okay if I operate this?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, great.
And the board has been given at least some of the maps, I believe.
Yeah,
and
there's
it's
some of
under
the
tab.
information that was shared with the town, but yeah.
Excellent. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Okay, again, this is the POF property located off of Harding Road. This is giving you a basic overview of the property, showing 2 proposed entrances to the site. We are just above 27 acres for the entire property. We are proposing 99 units. This would be low density. We've had several meetings with the town and several work sessions, and the outcome has been that student housing is frowned upon on this property just for multiple reasons. So the direction that we have been given has been to go with a single family for sale product that is marketed towards either a working professional or empty nester buyer. Some of the things that we've included on the property are things like walking trails and trying to embrace kind of the natural setting that we have currently existing there, as well as a community building, dog park, also a playground to kind of facilitate, family activities and whatnot. I'm going to quickly flip through a couple of these. This is just showing kind of an overall view of where the property is in conjunction with the college and the airport. Again, this is showing the property with adjacent amenities and things that would service the property. We have had a traffic study performed for Harding Road to try to better understand what the implications would be for the development. And the result was, or the final analysis was, that no road improvements are required for the proposed development. And we do have a full traffic study report that we can provide via PDF if need be. One of the concerns that the town also mentioned was sustainability. So we've gone to extra links to actually incorporate sustainable practices not only within the site but also within the building practice. So this represents kind of a broad brush overview of the project, both site amenities that we would incorporate as well as building practices. Again, this is just a visual representation of the location of different amenities that we're providing on site to better service the empty nesters or the working professional communities. We also have the actual units with bedrooms geared towards the working families as opposed to students. And I think everyone's aware that student housing is easily recognizable with 4-bedroom, 4-bath products. So that was one of the directions that the town gave us to steer away from very quickly. I'm just quickly flipping through some of these units. Again, we have the hard copies here as well. So that's the end of the actual PDF package. And again, as Mr. Meadows mentioned, we have met with the town and they've given us kind of the green light to come to this meeting this evening and to better understand the county's position on the boundary line adjustment and what the next steps need to be. So it's really just to get a green light from you guys in favor of moving forward that boundary line adjustment. Thank you.
Hold on one second. Supervisor King, do you have any questions?
How much are they talking about moving the boundary lines?
I apologize, I'm looking for the escape button, but I don't.
Is the keyboard under your... Yeah. There you go.
Did they present that to the town that way?
And Jeremy, if while you're looking to answer,
yes, sir.
You got to go ahead, and I'll.
Oh, okay. Yes, just to better clarify, on the screen right now we have an orange dashed line that currently represents the county town line, and the idea is that we would look to relocate that to the outer border of the property to then basically annex it into the town.
So you want to put all that into town?
Yes, sir.
How's that going to affect the rest of it? I mean, they're the outside of this property.
It would the only change would be to bring this acreage into the town. It would remain in the county. I mean, when you do a boundary line adjustment, it stays in the county.
Right.
But it would simply bring it into the town. And the reason that they need to consider that is, in order to develop the property, it needs utilities. It needs water and sewer. The county doesn't have water and sewer in that area, so in order to develop it, the town would have to provide utilities. The town will not provide utilities unless it's inside the corporate limits of the town. That's their rule. So when these gentlemen first came to talk to the county about this proposed development, we told them pretty quickly that the conversation really needed to be with the town of Blacksburg, because Blacksburg controls the utilities for that area, or excuse me, the county does not have utilities in that area. The town would have to extend their utilities to this property in order to serve it, which means the town would have to agree to a boundary line adjustment. Excuse me, the town would have to request a boundary line adjustment of the county. And so rather than, they've had several meetings with the town. I think they've been very generally positive from what I understand. So they're to a point now that we felt it was important for you to be aware of this, so that if the town desires to proceed, we will likely get a request from the town to consider a boundary line adjustment.
Any other questions?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Supervisor Creed? Supervisor Biggs?
Well, Supervisor DeMott and I share a concern that I'm going to let her speak to, but I'd like to speak to, because I was actually at the work session where you presented this to the town, I think originally. I think I understand why you're here tonight. I think I understand from the county administrator that you're just making us aware that this is out there, because normally in the past, when we've had a situation like this, the town and the county get together and discuss it. So I guess we're just doing it a different way this time, and they're coming to us. Are you saying that the town said that you should come to us? I'm confused about, to me, it's like, I'm confused why we're doing this.
The only reason we're doing this tonight, we did it in a work session so you could have a conversation, is to make you aware that there's some discussion of a potential development. It's not to ask for a boundary line adjustment, because the town
has
would
to do that.
And I would say that if the town comes forward with a boundary line adjustment, then we'll have the meeting like we've done in the past of the groups to have the discussion. This is just something we wanted to make you aware of, so if we were to get a letter in the coming weeks from the town, you'd know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and if I could add to that as well, it basically was a recommendation from the town to say, let's go ahead and start that process as far as the communication with county, and they recommended this.
So
this is the first step.
Does the town have a timeline where they're going to work on this, or is it just sort of just out there right now? Like, is there a timeline when you guys go back and they say, okay, we like it, we're going to talk to the county, or?
It's definitely not been set in stone.
Okay.
We would like for it to move faster, of course.
Okay, and then Supervisor DeMott's going to ask our other question here.
I do have just one concern on this first slide. The county is generally in favor of site annexation. Was this sold to the town as if we've already said that we're in favor of this?
No, that statement on that slide was actually a result of a pre-meeting where we had with Mr. Meadows and just kind of going through.
So Mr. Meadows indicated that the county was in favor of site annexation?
It was a general.
The comment was made that staff would be supportive if the town was interested in annexing.
Okay.
Yeah, so
because again, there's no way for the county to be able to provide utilities. So if So the staff said we would be supportive if you wanted to move forward with the development if the town supported it.
Well, then the next, and I understand that, and that's, I think we're in the process now. I just want to make sure that there's clarity. We have not voted on it.
Correct.
The next line down on the slide, the current proposal conforms with the Blacksburg Comprehensive Plan as it indicates low to medium density residential growth for this location. The Blacksburg Comprehensive Plan shouldn't address county land. So there should not be, perhaps that's in Montgomery County's comprehensive plan, but the Blacksburg Comprehensive Plan wouldn't have this on it because this isn't in Blacksburg.
No, and I believe the kind of the gray area that we're dealing with is because it's right on the line. There is some indications in the Blacksburg study in the adjacent properties, and that's really what it's referencing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it butts up to high residential or high intensity residential with Windsor Hills. So I understand wanting to build a more dense residential next to a more dense residential. That makes good planning sense. Just wanted to, I guess, clarify. If you've read in the Blacksburg Comprehensive Plan that they have a future land use goal for this parcel, that's unusual. because it's in the county.
It would be unusual to
Yeah.
have a piece of property that's not theirs.
And other than that, I think, you know, you've had several conversations with town council. You know what the town needs. It, of course, needs student housing, but it also needs the housing type that you've proposed here. So I, in general, understand the need for the work session, understand the need to have this discussion. I don't think you're, you know, I don't think you're way off base. It was just a couple of issues there that I personally went, whoa, to those pretty quickly because they seemed a little untrue.
Yes, no, and I apologize again for any miscommunication in the text. So hopefully there's clarity about that.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
thank you, you have.
Supervisor Shepherd?
Everybody's done asked all the questions.
I have a couple of questions about your traffic study, and it looks like from looking at the PDF presentation that the traffic study was primarily going towards Blacksburg. But since you're targeting professionals, so some of those professionals may end up commuting to Roanoke, commuting to Christiansburg through either the Catawba or Ellett Valleys. Is it just not listed, or did your traffic study not address the impacts that it might have? And Harding Road, I went to school there, drove there for, you know, after I got my driver's license, drove to school down Harding. It's a very windy road. And so I was wondering, does your traffic study address, and you know, you've got 90 roughly units of additional traffic going down Harding Avenue that direction?
As far as moving away from campus, I'm assuming is what you're asking?
Yes, going towards the Catawba Valley, which would be going towards Roanoke, and that would be a connector to go to Roanoke County and go by. A lot of people know the home place down in that area, and then go over the mountain, or to be commuting towards Christiansburg rather than go through the town. Some individuals might utilize going through Ellett Valley and being able to get through Christiansburg in that fashion rather than try to go through the town. And I know the town you're looking at it, and there were some discussions about whether there would be an increased impact on Harding Avenue going towards the town of Blacksburg. And my question is there an impact going away from, and is there a study on that aspect of things? Because I feel like the town of Blacksburg is going to look out for the town, but it's our job to look out for what impacts it might have on the county.
You know, Wes, you may be able to speak to this a little bit.
Yeah. When we first started these conversations, it was with the town, and they were the ones that requested the study, and we're concerned about. So I think your point's well taken. I don't think the study does address correctly what the traffic knows, because at that time we had the study, it was really addressing what the town's request was at the time. I think all of us were also assuming that most of the market for these things, which not all of them, as you point out, certainly not all traffic, but most of them would be flowing back towards downtown. But getting an addendum done to the traffic study to show that study going over would be something easy enough to do, and it could easily be done.
If the town was to make that request, that's something I personally would like to see, just to see if there is an impact on the county.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Thank you. Did that spur any other additional questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate you being here. Leave them with Vicki.
The next item on work session, and I'm looking to, does anyone need to take a break or like to take a break? All right, next item is a county capital plan.
And I'm going to recognize Carol. This is actually something that the board discussed all the way back at the beginning of the year in terms of really needing to focus on developing better long-range capital planning. You know, the schools have had meetings regarding facilities. We've had several meetings with county staff, our leadership team, and talking about where are we with our projects and what do we need to be making the board aware of. Carol and staff have put together some information, and she's going to review that with you tonight.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, as Craig mentioned, and we're sort of going to tag team this presentation tonight, so I'll do a little bit and he'll do some more, and eventually we'll get to the end here. Our leadership team has spent some time trying to identify what projects they believe are important in the next several years in order to address certain capital needs within the county. And I don't intend to go over the specifics of each and every project, but just to overview with you what this list tends to look like and what things are on it in terms of the county side of needs. And the first area is public safety. And the number one item on that list so far is the Roanoke Fire Station facility, because I believe the board has talked about that as well in your retreat sessions, is that being a need you'd like to see addressed. There's also a project looking at renovating the former fire department for the rescue squad to move into. Again, I believe that's a project you've discussed previously, along with the need for a Shawsville Rescue Squad facility as well. There's some other upgrades in terms of radios, jail system upgrades, and we're also looking at renovating the former sheriff's office building to relocate some public safety functions into that facility at some point.
So, and I will add to that, because when we put that on there, it's not for additional sheriff space. We have plenty of space in the public safety building, but we have several other operations that are off-site now that we're leasing space for, that would make a lot of sense to consolidate in that building adjacent to the public safety building. But for those of you that may have not been in that building for a while, it was tired many years ago, so it needs quite a bit of work, but it will allow us to stop paying leases on a building, and also allow us to free up other buildings that we can then return to the tax rolls, I hope.
And again, these are functions that would fit within the complex of public safety building. In the area of recreation and libraries, you just heard tonight about the master plan study that's being conducted. There are a couple of projects that are included on the list, and those will be finalized as that master plan becomes available, in looking at renovating the Christiansburg Library and perhaps the need for a new Blacksburg Library facility given the space issues related to that facility. We've also followed up from some of the items that were in the Parks and Rec Master Plan, which also address the need for athletic facilities in both Reiner and the Shawsville, Eastmont areas of the county, as well as the potential for developing a river park as a new amenity for both tourism and recreation. And you'll remember that was discussed in the Parks and Rec Master Plan.
And Carol, if I can add on this slide, the two library numbers are, well, as all the numbers are best estimates, but especially with the libraries, when I met with the folks today, we don't have any preconceived, we're going to do this for Christiansburg or this for Blacksburg. We do recognize that the Blacksburg facility, should the master plan and ultimately the board direct that a new facility be built for that community, we're going to have to find land. And that's the reason that number's higher. It assumes that the Christiansburg Library could be renovated and the work could be done on the existing site, because we have more property there than we do in Blacksburg.
So this category of recreation and libraries altogether is a little over $24 million. Economic development, and as you can see from the projects listed, mostly it's the expansion of the corporate park. And in addition to that, looking at village plans and how to develop the infrastructure around those, not only including bikeways and walkways and trails, but what other items would be important to developing those particular areas and villages. In looking at those, and as Craig said, we're doing estimates on all of these. We don't know or have fleshed out all of these at this point, but we're looking at somewhere over $12 billion.
And I will add, on that slide, the future corporate park site, we don't have a particular land area identified yet. We have just tried to estimate number of acres and our best estimate as to per acre price. So that's what those numbers represent.
Also, we've looked at what improvements need to be made to what we're calling the county-owned infrastructure. And one of the things we recognize that we have not done a lot in the past that we do need to do is begin to look at capital maintenance and doing maintenance projects on those facilities that we currently have. We also know that at some point in time here in the near future that if we're going to continue to have a county garage, we're going to need to be looking at a new facility. There's also some improvements with HVAC that need to be conducted. There's also removal of old county facilities, as if we get a new garage, we need to take the old one down. If we finish out the animal shelter, we need to take the old one away. There's some ancillary buildings around both of those sites that need to be removed, and if we build a new buildings and grounds shop that you see on the list here, then there are buildings associated in the back that need to be removed with those as well. The other item is technology and software improvements, and we have several packages that need to be upgraded, and amazingly not just replacing it, but just upgrading it can be in excess of $700,000 or $800,000. And we have several of those coming up, and this is looking at how we can package those and plan for addressing those needs before we're in a crisis. Finally, the regional fiber infrastructure is actually a project to look at how to interconnect municipal fiber and how do we connect both of the towns in the county within a fiber connection. Looking at all those projects together, we're $10.6 million. So if we want to just summarize what the leadership team's been looking at in these particular areas, we total all those up, we're at about $57 billion. So I wanted to take this time to go back and talk about history a little bit. And that's because it has an impact on why we're constrained in terms of debt capacity currently. It's because of the amount of debt that was issued in a short period of time within the last 7 years or so. So since 2009, there are a number of projects that have been completed. We finished out the courthouse project and the public safety building with funds that were from a debt issuance in fiscal year '09. There were also a number of school projects. Two of those were from the bond issuance in fiscal year '09. That was Price's Fork in Eastern Montgomery. There was another small issuance for energy policies that followed. But the major number of projects and the largest issuance of debt came in fiscal year '12 for the Blacksburg High School, the Auburn High School, and the Auburn Middle School. So when you look at the total amount of debt, you're looking at debt being issued of nearly $200 million in 7 years, and it was actually issued in '09 and '12, so you had that significant amount of debt issued within a 3-year period. And that's the reason there's some constraints on your capacity and your ability to borrow, and why that has played out over a number of years. So, I keep getting asked by members of this board, as well as people from the schools, when are we going to be able to borrow money and do these projects? Well, here's where we stand right now in terms of debt capacity. Is based on our current estimates, And we have two ranges of estimates based on different assumptions from our financial advisors, that the first opportunity to be able to have a significant sum for a bond issuance would be in fiscal year '21. And that would be a range between $18 and $20 million. Now, if you look even broader to fiscal year 2026, and this would mean if you did not issue any debt for 10 years, nothing, issue nothing at all, your range would then be from $132 million to $144 million respectively. Now, here's the issue. The projects on the list. Because we understand there are a number of needs in the schools, and we've done an estimate of what looks like it could be totaling over $300 million for a number of projects on that list. You just heard from us about a list of $57 million of projects. You total all those up, you're at $357 million. Well, you can see you're in the black at 2026. And we park this at around $140 million. That's about 40% of the list that is potentially out there in terms of needs. The overage you can see in the red is significantly more than your capacity is going to be within a 10-year period. So what needs to happen? Well, at this point, you have projects to be completed within the next 10 years, and those need to be prioritized.
And I want to add to that bullet, when we talked with the leadership team and we went back through the capital projects that we've been talking about internally for a couple of years, the list Carol presented tonight to you for the county projects are really 5-year projects. You know, if the county expanded the list that we shared with you out to 10 years, there's some significant additional capital maintenance needs. Software continues to be an issue. Parks and Recreation continues to be an issue. What we did is just tried to capture within a 5-year window what we think we're going to have to address. It's pretty sobering, and when we talk about prioritization, I know that the schools are going to have some information to share with the Board of Supervisors at the joint meeting that we have on August 29th. I think subsequent to that meeting, there's going to have to be quite a bit of discussion with both groups about what are the things we can do now and what are the things that can wait, because, you know, as Carol showed on that previous slide, we're in quite a fix for the next 10 to 15 years.
And that pretty much summarizes the next steps here. There need to be priorities. I'll just upstage you, that's okay.
I actually read this presentation before today.
There does need to be one list, and that list needs to be county ed schools. And then from there, what happens is you develop a financial plan that you look at how much cash you have available, along with how do you accomplish these projects with your available cash as well as your debt capacity. The last thing I'll end with here is the fact that while we're looking at debt capacity, that's just how much you can borrow. That's not even looking at affordability, which is how much money do you have available in the base budget to be able to pay the debt service on the bonds you issue without generating additional revenue. So that's a topic for later down the road, but one that needs to be considered when you're talking about how you're going to fund capital projects. So with that said, I guess that's all the information Craig and I have to give to you. And we'll be happy to try and address questions if you have any at this point.
I want to start with Supervisor Shepherd. I don't have any. Supervisor DeMoss.
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Supervisor Biggs.
Are we buying lottery tickets?
Always buy lottery tickets.
If you win, Mary, I bet you we'll name a library after you.
I'm going to give some some money, don't worry.
Supervisor Creed. Supervisor King.
No.
Carol and Craig, thank you very much for putting this together. And at some point in time, I think that we need to have a work session or maybe a retreat so we can give
Yes.
staff some guidance.
For sure.
Would you please not call that retreat?
Okay.
An extended work session.
work session. I guess.
I always
Retreat
get called-
sounds fancy,
When you
and
say
that's just
retreat,
business.
I always get called, where'd y'all go?
The last time we had an extended work session, we went over to the Blacksburg Marriott, so
There you
it
go.
wasn't a great distance or anything along those lines. So
And no one spent the night either.
no one spent the night. Absolutely. That being said, I tell you what, I would like to take just a short 5-minute break and let everybody stretch, and then we'll get on with the rest of the meeting and finish it up. So it's 5 minutes after 9. Let's try to get back by 9:15. Is that reasonable?
9:45?
No, you can't. The next work session item is the school carryover money for 2016.
And Mr. Chair, this is on the agenda just to see if the board wants to have any question or discussion. We do have it on for approval later in the agenda. Under tab F,
Now you're
in your agenda packet, we have the request, and I apologize, I don't have tab F in front of me right now, but
I do.
You need mine?
I just wanted to summarize the total amount.
It's $1.985,423.
And the superintendent and several representatives from staff and the school board are here should the board have any questions that we can't answer, which would be probably all of them.
I think I started with the Supervisor Shepherd last time, so Supervisor King, do you have some questions of the school board or anything about the rollover money?
No, I'm just glad to see them put that electronic sign in for Eastmont. That's the only school don't have one, is that correct?
It's only high school.
Right, right. Thank y'all.
Supervisor Creed?
No.
Supervisor Biggs?
No, I think it's all laid out very well with the explanation, and I'm just really sorry again that the state was not able to come through with their money for the employee compensation.
Supervisor DeMonts?
All of these are extremely important items. I know this sounds like a bit of a pet project, but I am excited to see the additional buses and related equipment on there. Just to commend the transportation department within the public schools. I had a question about busing, and it was addressed and resolved almost immediately within the transportation department, and I'm excited to see that we're trying to get back on track with purchasing some new buses.
Supervisor Shepherd?
I don't have anything.
Dr. Meyer, I do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. And prior to your coming, there was a study that was done that called for about $2 million worth of maintenance every single year to address all of the maintenance concerns. And I understand that the contracts have been signed, and you promised your employees that about $400,000, and that's part of the monies and the rollover money. Is that correct?
Yes, in fact, talking about the electronic signs, if the state does not give us, what was projected, then below number 9 drops off. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Because that's about, if you add up lines or numbers 10, starting with the 2 FTEs, all the way through 16, then that's the $400-some-thousand that the state had said they were going to give us, but they had a shortfall. But we've already issued contracts.
I get that part, but what I guess my concern is, I remember that study. I remember the school board coming very passionately when that came back in front of us and said we need $2 million in schools for maintenance. And I'm looking at a lot of different things, and they're great items on here. It's not like that you're spending money on ice cream sundaes. But I'm concerned that there's not more of this allocation going towards maintenance. And I was going to ask a question, if you could describe how your board came to this conclusion and did not spend, $1.5 million or $1.6 million on towards maintenance.
Well, we looked at our projects and to see what, in terms of immediate needs, and we prioritized those. And I'll say this, let's just put it out there. We're about education, educating kids.
Right.
And we have some things we need to do to educate our children appropriately. And those things are on this list. And we, it comes back to the educational, piece of it. One thing that would happen if number 5, the $205,000 for the phase 3 of the following branch, that would actually then fall off if we were to move forward with an addition to following branch elementary school. That would actually come off. So then that would be another, $200,000 that could go to other capital maintenance projects. Let's see.
And I guess, am I correct in saying that your board is evaluating it, and at this point in time, the maintenance issues just are not a priority, and looking at this? And what I'm concerned about is, you've seen the future of our, and we've got to have these buildings last. And I appreciated your meeting, and you're talking about, okay, it may be, buildings may need to last 60 years. And what I'm concerned is, if we don't take care of them now and spend that maintenance now, we're not going to be able to afford new schools for an extended period of time, and that we've got to be addressing those maintenance and regular maintenance needs. And I guess that's my concern. I appreciate the school board. They could have spent this money like drunken sailors before and not had rollover money. They saved their money. I appreciate that. I'm going to vote to return the rollover money to the school board, but I still want to express my concerns that the maintenance needs are not being addressed, and that the reality is that we are not going to be able to build as many new schools as we would like, and we've got to address those needs. And so, as I said before, I'm going to vote for the rollover money, but I continue to have some grave concerns about the maintenance.
Yeah, I do too. I have grave concerns about the buildings as well, and the future of our buildings. And this is no indication of my thoughts on our buildings and how poor shape many of them are in, because they really are. But two, we need to make sure we're giving our students 21st century education, maybe not without the building. And there's some things we have to do to keep up with. We're educating kids who are competing with kids around the state. And there's some things we have to do to keep up, and I think that's what we prioritize here. I think it's really important. There are maintenance things. It's 1.9 million. It's not enough money. I mean, we could add and I'll be glad next Monday night. I'll be glad to show you all the things that we need to do in terms of maintenance and the things that have been requested.
And I understand that, and I understand each board has a balancing act, but I'm trying to look down the road, and at least in my mind, we're not going to be able to build as many new schools as we might like, and we've got to make sure to maintain our own ones. But that's my...
Just say this money is a drop in the bucket. I mean, this is not what... These are Band-Aids here. If we were to start pulling, this money for what could be done in buildings, it will not meet our needs. I think that has a lot to do with it. It's we do have to keep up with educational standards as well.
I know that, and I'm really proud. I heard that about the mathematics scores I think you shared with me and several other people at Christiansburg High School. I was really proud to see that level of achievement there, and I think that's a reflection on the school board, the school staff that's there. And I do believe that children are getting a first-rate education here in Montgomery County. And
right.
So,
and we've written an explanation for each one of these items here that, you feel free to ask me a question about any of them.
As I said, it's not that I'm saying that, that you're spending the money on ice cream sundaes, but it's a matter of And it's perhaps maybe I've been on the board and just remembered that very passionate request saying that we needed to be able to address $2 million per year of maintenance needs or bad things were going to happen. And I'm seeing that we've got 1.9, and I understand that we got to address salaries. And so then, in my mind, now we're down to 1.5.
Right.
And I know that was before your time also. And so I just remember that very passionate arguments that we had to address those maintenance needs. And when we do have large sums of money, it just...
Well, I mean, really, the only thing here that is not maybe within the capital needs is maybe the one-to-one initiative for Chromebooks. If you look through it, of course, the roof project is a capital maintenance project. Of course, additional school buses. If we don't replace our school buses, we're going to run out of life. We're going to run out of school buses. Roof and maintenance plan, that's capital right there. 21st century technology allocation. One of the issues when I'm assuming they're talking about that $2 million every year that's needed. A lot of it had to do with technology infrastructure, and so that I guess I would challenge you to say that a lot of most of it is dealing with some of the capital needs, and the 21st century allocation definitely surely is. The security grant, that's a capital improvement issue and need, if in my opinion, because our buildings have to be secure. Part of modern buildings is security of the buildings. So I guess what I'm saying is I think most of these are capital needs. It might not be bricks and mortar, but they are capital needs for modern buildings.
And the previous study was much more of a bricks and mortar type boilers, those type roofs, those type of issues that we were dealing with. As I said before, I'm going to vote for it. I'm appreciative of the fact that I grew up in Blacksburg, and I remember listening to department heads over at Tech saying, well, we got to spend our money at the end of the month, or before the end of the fiscal year, and they would spend it down trying to make sure to justify their next year's budget. I'm very appreciative of the school board not doing that and having $1.9 million of savings where they've been frugal with their money, and I think that shows the level of hard work that your board has done. But again, I just have those concerns, and it's because of my past experiences and past presentations that some of your board members made, and it sunk in.
We still have those concerns, and we really do, and that's why we have, $300 million in buildings and renovations that's needed. Continue to go down. Of course, we have a few other things at the bottom of the list that will be knocked off because of the state shortfall in dealing with the utility vans. We need vehicles to operate our school division. They break down. We need phone system upgrades, computers, and I mean that's part of running a school division. There's capital maintenance actually in there too. It's a sort of miscellaneous item. The utility van. And really the only
I look at the two items where the Chromebooks of $600,000 and then the $140,000 for the reserve teacher units. That's about $740,000, roughly half. In my way of looking at things, is not capital based.
Yeah, they're not. Chromebooks are not a capital expense, but I think it's necessary for modern day learning. I have no desire to get behind, and our children being behind with the rest of the students in the Commonwealth. I believe we need to be on the forefront in terms of how we educate our students, and that's the Google Classroom is the way to do that. And feel free to stop by schools anytime, and you'll see it's a lot of times I think we sometimes think of computers and laptops as being luxury items. They're not luxury anymore in terms for schools. It's something that it's an item that we use that is part of education. It's becoming our textbooks. Our textbooks, we're moving away from textbooks, and our textbooks are going to soon all be on that one little tablet. And there's so many educational values that we can keep. Here's the thing too with the $600,000 for the Chromebooks is that if we don't implement, then we will get behind in replacement. And I think that's something that is that's important as well. So,
thank you very much. Did that spur other questions from other board members?
I just got one thing on line 7.
Sir.
On line 7.
Yes, sir.
$250,000 roof and maintenance plan. This is the amount unfunded in the operating budget for the roof maintenance plan. The Board of Supervisors funded this plan in 2013, 2014. They did not fund it in 2015, 2016. I don't think that was, I'll put it this way, I didn't like that because you get a budget. And because you didn't put money in the budget for the roofs, I don't think the Board of Supervisors ought to get the blame for that.
Read the sentence.
I mean, that part there is telling the taxpayers that we didn't fund it to fix the roof. I mean, the school system gets a budget, a right big budget. And if they didn't put it in there for the roof, $250,000, that's not our fault.
We used our carryover funds to fund it for those 2 years. That's why I have it, why it's worded that way. It wasn't that it didn't come from your year-end money like you had done the one-time only funding of it the prior 2 years in 13 and 14, and then 15 and 16, we funded it with our year-end carryover money. That's what that was intended to say.
Yeah, what I'm saying, if taxpayers read this, they're gonna say the board held back $250,000 2 years in a row. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
That's not how it's supposed to be.
Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. I see what you're saying. In terms of the word
The word
is a little awkward there.
There you
I
go.
apologize. I think you're right.
Any other additional questions?
No, but I'd like to read something, because you know me, when this gets going about what the state doesn't do. I attended a session by Jim Regenball, and I'm going to give you guys a copy of all the information, and it happened to be on financing of Virginia's K-12 public education, and this might sort of give a little bit of insight as to why, you know, school boards and localities are in the situation they're in. This is based on the 2015 JLARC ranking. Per capita personal income in Virginia ranks 10th in the country. State and local taxes as a percentage of personal income, we rank 45th out of all the states. Per capita state taxes, we rank 36th. Per capita local taxes, we rank 15. Now this is all localities. State per pupil funding, we rank 41 out of the 50 states. State and local per pupil funding, we rank 26th. What does that tell you localities are having to put in? Average salary of public school teachers in this state, we rank 35th. So I think you can see why the school system has to take what monies they have and really stretch them over a variety of needs, because the state, and you've heard me say this over and over, and I will continue till my dying day, does not do their part for public education in Virginia, period.
I'll agree with you. Wholeheartedly there. It's and of course, you know, I think the state got the kudos and giving the raises for teachers, but I haven't seen much news in how it's being taken back, because that's pretty much what's happened. They said that they were giving the raises, and now they are not, and we're having to fund those raises here at the local level. And so, you know, one statistic that you may have left off is when it comes to education, the state of Virginia, we rank, I think, in the top 5 in the nation in educating our students.
With test scores and everything else.
With test scores and everything else, which I think the last one I saw was 2 or 3, actually. And so that says a lot about what we're doing in the classroom. And I'm telling you, Montgomery County Schools, we're doing as well, and not better than any of the school divisions in the state. We actually looked at our data and compared it to other school divisions our size in the state, and there are very few schools that have almost every single school fully accredited, school divisions rather, that have almost every single school fully accredited.
Yeah. That's in here too about the accreditation all over the state, what they're doing with nothing, what the people in the school systems are doing without the proper resources, and what the localities are doing to help as much as they can. I'll make sure you get a copy of this.
Thank you.
And, but I think we're doing, and you know, and Mr. Tucker talked about the priorities in terms of how they're listed here. You know, we need to stay on top of it in terms of education. I think our county has high expectations in terms of how we educate our students, and we plan on continuing to do that. And you know, even though the structures in some places are less than desirable, that's the most important thing.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions or any other comments? Thank you, Dr. Meyer.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion to go out of work session?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Moss?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
All right. Next item is, I guess, action out, but we've got the carryover funds further down.
Yes, we do.
Old business, the ordinance amending the Entitled Animals Code of Montgomery County by amending numerous sections to comply with state law requirements. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Moss?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Next is resolution authorizing the submittal of certain transportation projects for smart scale funding processes. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Moss?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
New business. Carryover funds in regards to Montgomery County Public Schools, transferred to the school operating fund $1.985 million.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Moss?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Creed?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Next is County Attorney's Report.
No report, Mr. Chair.
Next is County Administrator's Report.
Just a couple of quick items. Mr. Chair, Supervisor Biggs, Supervisor Perkins, and I had the opportunity to attend some VACO meetings last Friday in Richmond. Ms. Biggs has already mentioned some of the information from the Education Committee. We have information from several other committees that we'll be sending out to the board for your review and information. Those meetings are very informative. Unfortunately, they always seem to be a little depressing. It's good to see everybody at those meetings, but the news isn't always the greatest. Two things I wanted to mention to the board. For a number of years, Giles County has had an event each year to clean up a section of the New River that passes through Giles County. This year, working with the New River Valley Regional Commission, there's going to be a regional effort made to address a section of the New River from Bissett Park in Radford to the 114 Peppers Ferry Bridge. And that event is this Saturday. It begins at 9 o'clock. There'll be a large number of folks meeting in Bissett Park in Radford to work that. Montgomery County is participating in that project. Our Parks and Recreation folks provide a number of boats to help with that. Lisa Bleakley and Brad Buchanan and Parks and Rec have been coordinating the effort. We have a number of volunteers lined up, and that'll be a great day. We'll send you some pictures of how that's going to go. Also want to remind everyone of of course, we have the joint meeting with the school board next Monday evening. It'll be on the school board side. I don't know that we've got the particular time yet, but we'll get that out as soon as we have it. Also, the information meeting that the New River Valley Regional Water Authority is holding next Wednesday, the 31st at 6:30, and that's at the Cascades Room at Virginia Tech, at the Inn at Virginia Tech. I'll be sending out an email with some information on that as well. That's just to update the three elected bodies, the two town councils and the Board of Supervisors on the project. And last but not least, not that Vicki had much choice about where she could be tonight, but we want to make sure Vicki gets wished a happy birthday for staying with us till 9:45 on her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
your birthday present, we won't sing, okay? You don't want to hear me sing.
It's going to take the lead.
There's certain things that leadership you can't do, and so therefore, now maybe Mary and April can sing. I know Gary can sing, but not, you don't want me singing. And it's on tape, and I don't really want to do that at all. Was there anything
That's
else?
it. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Creed. Supervisor Biggs.
Okay, I've got a few things. First of all, I guess you all know the Animal Care and Adoption Center is really coming out of the ground now, so I would imagine sometime soon maybe we'll have a visit when everything gets under roof, right, Mr. Meadows? And then on the pipeline issue, are we going to have a way that, like all these concerns that are being brought up, and I brought the two gentlemen's names from that last meeting to give to Mr. McMahon, like all this can be coordinated with the attorney that we've hired? I mean, do they have a way to give their input? Do they just give it to Marty then? And then, okay. Okay. All right, that sounds good. Okay, now, I missed the library board meeting last week because I had to travel to Richmond, but I asked if there was anything that they wanted brought back, and they wanted brought back, and this is in Gary's district, the backpack program at Meadowbrook. It started in June and it ended on August 4th. It served 121 children. It was offered on Tuesdays at the library, and then on Thursday they took the library van out to the two mobile home parks in eastern Montgomery. They set up the library tent, offered the food, backpacks, and provided a craft, a free book, and a healthy snack provided by the Virginia Extension Office. They received donations from several private individuals, from the ministers in Shawsville, the Shawsville Ruitons, and the VFW Post 4929, and the Mountain Valley Charitable Foundation, and others. And so they were able to then take all of these donations and provide school supplies for those children. So that went very, very well, and I knew you would be interested in that, Gary.
I've helped do it.
Yeah. Was it fun?
Yeah.
I bet
hard
it
work.
was.
Wasn't at this particular one, but somebody's there from our groups down there. Every week they come in, they would give them what will be their lunch. And because if they didn't get their lunch or something that we didn't feed it, they don't get it.
That's a great
They don't get it at home, so they won't get it anywhere else. So yeah, that's that, and clothing and anything else that you can mention. If they need it, we try to get it.
Good, okay. Now, there was something interesting that happened at the Vaco County Official Summit. We had a gentleman, I'm hoping that Craig knows this man. He is the county administrator from King and Queen County. Tom, I believe is it Cipher Welder, something like that? I have his name. But anyway, this is what happened. In their county, they needed to do something about broadband. And I'm like, woohoo, because we had talked about that. And so he gave a whole presentation, and it was really good because he gave it from the county perspective of how they got things started in their county. And he asked these questions, and I thought maybe if we could get back in contact with him, I don't know if it would be something that we could use for our county, but he asked these questions. He said, first, do you have public radio? And he's talking about the radio frequencies, I guess, that the public safety people use. Do you have microwave backhaul, which I know nothing about? Do you have the political, does your county feel like it needs it? Do you have the political will to address the issue? And then he gave specifics as to how they addressed it and even cost. And it was very interesting that they were able to go through these radio signals and provide internet. Now, it didn't get to every single person, but they were able to hire a company. They're breaking even, and the company takes over the customer service part of it. And I gather that the people that get the internet in the county in the rural areas have some kind of little satellite or box thing on their house, and it's $50 a month, and it's unlimited data. And so I just thought maybe it would be something, since they've done this, if our board really wanted to see how a county had done it, I don't know if there's anything we could use. So I wanted to make sure, yeah, and I've got his name right here. And then Secretary Hazel from Health and Human Services presented opiates, and we all know that's a problem, and that sort of went with what is going on in our county right now by Ann Giles, who's trying to develop a conversation on addiction within the county, and so that sort of fit into that. Then I found out from, it was just all kinds of weird things I found out from Brian Moran, he's our Secretary of Public Safety and Homeland Security, that they provide free cyber assessments to localities, and the Coast Guard, of all people, the Coast Guard is trained to do this, and they'll come to your county and they'll provide a cyber assessment for your, I guess, all your stuff. So I told Craig about that. That might be something we want to, because it's free, and boy, that would be interesting to know. So I was excited about that, and so I took a lot of notes, and I'll share the rest of that internet stuff with Craig and see if, there's anything we should, look into. And then I want to mention that the theme for the fall event, our annual conference, is Building Bridges, Connect, Collaborate, and Innovate. So I'm excited about that. And the last thing I want to ask about is something I had no idea about, called GASB 77, and it's reporting rules on tax abatements. And evidently there's some new thing where you have to disclose any tax abatements that you give to anybody, economic development or whatever. I didn't know anything about it, so I don't know if we need to have information on it, but it sort of blew my mind.
It's information that'll be required to be disclosed in our CAFR each year.
Yeah, and that's it.
Thank you. And I really appreciate you exploring the internet.
Yes, I got really excited because I knew how excited you were about it, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Supervisor DeMont.
I'll be quicker than Supervisor Biggs was.
Wait a minute.
Several citizens tonight specifically mentioned the resolution that was adopted in 2014. I wasn't here when that resolution was adopted. Can we revisit that and make sure that the resolution is not just opposing the pipeline in a particular neighborhood, but
I thought it opposed it
in the whole county?
in the whole county.
That's what I thought.
Actually, Judy, and I haven't had a chance, Judy got me a copy of that late this afternoon. I'll email it to you so you can.
And if we can, we could provide a copy of it. But I recall it was the whole county.
We was the first county done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was the whole county.
If
I'll
it
get you a
is
copy, Diana, too.
a whole county opposition, I'd like to make sure that that's very clear so people understand that it's not just Preston Forest and Brush Mountain. Also, one of the people that spoke this evening mentioned an advisory board. Is that something that we as a board have ever considered? A specific advisory board for MVP advisory to us? Is that something? I'd be interested in talking about the merits of that, if we could maybe schedule a work session or just flesh out that idea, because I think there's some merit to that. And then, not to continue beating the same drum and talking about the planning department, but I was wondering, I'm going through a development application in the town of Blacksburg in my other professional life. So it caused me to look at some fee structures in the planning department and how they compare to the county and the town. I was wondering if we could do an analysis of fee structures and see if maybe there might be some opportunities for revenue growth through fee. Make sure we're billing in line with how our surrounding area is billing.
We normally do that around budget season to incorporate it into the upcoming year budget. Would that be okay? I mean,
sure.
Could we have that process as part of our budget discussion?
Sure.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Supervisor Shepherd.
I just had maybe one question about the advisory board for the MVP. At some point, weren't we advised against that if we're going to hire an attorney?
Well, we hired an attorney. I don't, at this point in time, I'm not certain. I know Roanoke County has a very active one, but they also have, if I remember correctly, they have actually someone from MVP on their advisory board. And I think that there was a reluctance in board discussions about, okay, we're opposing them completely, but we're going to invite them to be on an advisory board. because that was the line that we had drawn in the sand.
Possibly we could name it a Citizens Advisory Board.
Instead of,
And the purpose of that would be, Supervisor Biggs and I attended a presentation on hydrostatic, I'm sorry if I messed this up, hydrostatic test water discharge, I think. And I was very impressed with the knowledge that exists in our community for people that live in this affected area. It's just, it's overwhelming the amount of scientific information and scientific data that this person knew that happened to live right in the impact zone. So we've got so many players in our community that have specialized knowledge that I think we might be missing an opportunity if we don't bring them together in some form of advisory capacity for us.
They've sort of just been doing it informally, but they could be.
they have been,
I'm not against having an advisory board at all, and that's not why I questioned it. And I do remember where I heard it. I spoke with one of the Giles County Board of Supervisor members, and they have one, and the attorney that they have said that's one of the things you probably shouldn't have done, because they kind of work it. I don't know enough about it to talk about it, but
And we need
that may
to
be
go
a
back.
conversation.
I know there was discussion when this pipeline issue first came up, and I honestly can't sit here and recall why we did or why we didn't, but we'll pull all that together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
anything else? Supervisor King?
No.
Well, I have no report, and I greatly appreciate everybody sticking around, and this meeting is adjourned.
Happy birthday, Vicky.